Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with another episode of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11. And I just finished drinking part of a Coke, and I was dealing with a little bit of sort of hiccup, bubbles, whatever you want to call it. So sorry if that was a little clumsy of an intro. This is going to be, I think, another event special that we talk about lots of events coming up here very shortly. They are all stacked up because a lot of these things are supposed to happen in 41, but only after a Soviet invasion. This is the first new fresh month start after after the invasion started. So we're going to be seeing a lot of these guys pop up, I do believe. Continuing, we'll go up to there and along those lines. Okay, good. So let's. Only the first hours happen. Okay, there. In that pocket. Yes, you have energy, all you want. Okay. I think we're not going to get any gameplay, obviously. We're getting stunned. Okay, well, we'll do the night. Get you guys move. Okay. Events are gameplay, but I want to sort of take the time and talk about them a bit more than I did the first time around. I'm pretty sure we're going to get a bunch more. Maybe happening on the 3rd now. Okay, we get them. Okay, yes. Okay. Retrieving there. Pushing there. About collapse, but we're gonna push there. Counter pushing. It's a little better. No. Light armor and keep retreat. Pushing the light armor, we've got some reflex. Not much else, but they're sort of messed up already. Okay. Got infantry units coming. Shore up and back to there. Okay. We've got troops way back in France, actually. Go back and pick these guys up. Now, I was talking to Nick, and see, I remembered. We've got some decent units still here, mostly mountain troops and regular infantry here in Greece. It needs to be moved up. Planning on moving to here. And we still have this fairly good Panzer Corps and also a sort of a mountain corps here. His maybe good advice is to move these units to the eastern front. But we've only got these two divisions here that are really good. I mean, this is just a light infantry colonial fighting sort of force. Decent HQ that's sort of gutted at the moment, and a couple of, you know, decent, they're more hurting from lack of supplies, light infantry divisions there. And then the only other real proper division that's any good is down here, and they're supporting these guys to come up here to take back this terrain, and the rest of this stuff is the garrison. So these aren't really that worthy to bring. Oh, forget it, I don't know. Stop. I just want to make these guys stop going anywhere. So I really don't think it's worth bringing them out. If that's going to be the deciding factor of winning or losing in the East, we're screwed. And if that's it, and we very well may be screwed. I'm not saying we're not, but yeah, there we go. Lots of that. Okay. Defensive Luftwaffe focus. Okay, air build speed. While it's cutting into interception tactics, have it advance. Great. Flying advance. There. Okay. Let's come over here with that. Research potential and do some medium. Yeah, Manchukuo can't come in. Industrial unite as they strike across the nation. I'm not liking this. I'm guessing it's because of this, but I'm not liking the whoever's putting this in. Maybe it's something because I'm not used to having 19 dissent at all. I'm just not used to that at all. It's revolver-held stuff. I'm fully blaming him. I'm not saying it's entirely wrong, but I think the level is just way too huge for. Now, I am keeping a fair amount. Okay, that's just anything there. Fair amount of air power here in the west to stave off various, there's Golland, various air attacks. And I know you can't really check to see what, and see there's these guys here. We've got a fair amount here that are there. So I think it's overdoing some of this stuff. I really do. Okay, Azul Division Azul. The Blue Division, the Spanish Division Azul, German Blau Division, or the 250th Infantry Division in the German Army was a unit of Spanish volunteers that served in the German Army on the Eastern Front. Now, they were primarily made up of phalangists, people ideologically fascist, not Nazis, but fascist. They wanted to serve in the Great Crusade against Bolshevism. They wanted to wear a Spanish phalangist-inspired uniform, but combination of reasons. Primarily that being that they weren't representing Spain. Spain was not at war with the Soviet Union. And so sort of on legal grounds as well as political appearances, they were forced to wear German uniforms. Although they had these sort of Spanish shields, and depending on the model, you see the Spanish shield on that guy's helmet there. If you look at some, I have a collection of books, uniforms of the Foreign Legions of the Third Reich, or Foreign Legions of the Third Reich, or whatever, which, at least in its day, they were some of the authoritative books on uniforms of foreign units serving for Germany. And this is back in late 70s, early 90s, early 80s, and more research has been done since, I know. But so I've read them and fairly familiar. They often had multiple versions of these patches type things for the different countries. And so that they got to have something that you know, signify them out as being Spanish in origin, but they had to wear German uniforms on the front. Now, away from the front, they were allowed to wear their sort of own sort of uniform type thing. I don't know how much time they spent away from the front that they could wear that other uniform, but they did have that as an alternative. And this was a case where they weren't impressed into the Waffen-SS. I think for various reasons, but one of them, and maybe the primary one, is that there was sort of initially sort of a dividing line, maybe sort of geographically along here, between units that were going to go, or manpower recruited into the German army versus manpower recruited into the SS. At first they wanted to keep it all Nordic, German, Aryan, whatnot, and only allowing peoples from other regions. Oh, we have a nice little problem down here. Okay. Just to go on. Never mind. Way too many. The peoples from here were initially recruited were very much of German ethnic origins. It was only later did they start bringing in non-Germanic type or non-Aryan type peoples into the Waffen-SS. So at first they started out being in German. So I think it's some of these regions for racial reasons and others so that they are part of the German army. Actually, I understand that these guys were reasonably well trained but highly motivated to want to fight. They weren't like some of the Italian soldiers or something that may have been sort of, regular draftees into the army and then their units just being sent to Russia. They have no say over it. These guys wanted to go to Russia. And so that they were quite effective for what they were. Swedish volunteers, because Sweden was a strict neutral in World War II, other than during a short experience in the Winter War, it did not openly allow recruitment of foreign armies. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union, sentiments changed very little, although Finns allowed to garner volunteers once again. Approximately 1,500 Swedes volunteered for service in Finland. Yeah, good. We got some, and some did definitely go directly into the Waffen-SS, though. Many more went into Finland. Okay, the Free Corps, Denmark, this is what I was talking about before. They thought they were going to be, initially going to be a Danish Freikorps, Free Corps, sort of volunteer unit, however big, depending on how many volunteers they got to go fight the Bolsheviks. Sure, they might have thought the need to wear a German helmet and, German jacket and pants, but thought they were going to be sort of fighting more or less under Danish colors, as it were, but they were forced into being, we can't see that there, but into being a SS unit. Schwer SS Panzer Brigade, yes, we want the unit. Soviet railways are too wide. The Germans advance deeper. We've talked about this before. I don't need to go into it too much, but I still think it's one of the oddest things. Yes, Rene, we see pretty girls that work in this cafe. Also, they're hookers. Corpse Führer Adolf Hulian dies. I know I've recently talked about this in the earlier version of this sort of episode here. Because a bunch of stuff that we were finding I had not talked about is sort of why I'm going through all this again. Talked about the importance of the NSKK to the German war effort. King Michael visits Sevastopol. Good. So Romania loses descent. Great. Yeah, help our friends. Supply metal, money. They gain a bunch of supplies, metal and money, and a bunch of mostly headquarters research, but great for them. How useful the Bulgarian army is to me, but yes, we'll do that. No separate peace agreement is signed. See the Nazi and Japanese flags. That oh man. I think that one's the ambassador to Japan, like one's the foreign or special envoy or something like that. Okay, so we're gaining in unity, and so is Japan and Italy. Great. War situation, focus on Russia. I do like that we have other plans. I'm going with the manpower right now. I mean, it's not, we're at 530. It's not like we're in dire need of it, but trust me, a good bunch of battles could put us in that situation. Okay, Stalingrad line was breached. The seizure strategic. Or the Stalin line, not Stalingrad. Stalin line was breached. Position is essential to keep peace. Keep up the pace of our conquest. Advance, advance, advance. Okay, they lose or they gain descent. Terrorist group crosses the Kerch Straits down to there. Yes, good. Finally losing some of this defense. Technical oil brigade starts work in Ad Daha. Presume that's down here, somewhere here. That access controlled. Okay, oil refining is gaining a lot. Technical oil branch starts its work in MyCop. We're at MyCop reasonably well at the moment. We got more forces coming. That's, well, technically it's a pocket, but they're coming back here and coming up here, and we'll be back together soon. Okay, oil refining gaining, good. Oil rig level up in MyCop, good. SS recruitment drive in Belgium 42 to replace losses. More SS recruits from Western European countries are needed. The order of the SS replacement command in these countries to organize local recruitment drives. Okay, good. Money again. I don't know where they think we're getting all this money from. I remember in earlier versions of this game, when I was playing it, during peace, because money is sort of generated from a certain number of ICs you have and some other things, but there are a lot of things now going on that suck money. Total economic mobilization down 35%. Massive economic investment down 25%. Heavy industry emphasis down 25%. Specialist training down 40%. Military Academy 2.5%. Junkerschulen, which yes, that's Junkerschulen, you get a lot of leadership elements out of that, but that's also, I think, meaning some of the cost is coming, some of the other SS activities. Home front focus down 15%. Propaganda down 15%. Building arms factories down 10%. So I don't know why that's building arms factories. I don't know why that affects freaking money. You know, because it's a domestic thing. And okay, compensation accepted. Don't know exactly remember what that's from. Sending the goon squads. Okay, that's helping captain of industry. Okay, that's an effect and that we've achieved, so we should get that. Control over the matter. I don't know where they think, because with all those huge negatives, where we're getting all this freaking money from. And since, as we've seen in some of revolverheld's other stuff, the various sort of games they were playing with local script, playing on local stuff, not coming out of, you know, German Reichsmarks or German gold reserves, I don't get why the money is there. Supplies, I totally get, totally agree with, totally good. And one thing particular about that is I can always up the amount of supply production. Go, oh, more, which doesn't mean it's free. It means I stop making all this other crap here. So, you know, it's a cost. It's a real cost, but it's something I can control. And do I want fighter planes, or do I want supplies for these other events? You know, as well as supplies to feed the troops. This is what's really sort of infuriating me, is I can't just go more fuel. Even if I got the oil, which I'm, you know, may end up running out of, though we are going to try to secure as much of this fairly quickly as we can. And again, I don't know. I want to sort of beat some of this in here and then withdraw these forces and go after, if Japan doesn't quite get them, go after some of the oil down here. But we are trying to get as much oil as we can through other sources. So, as well. So, I'm getting more and more frustrated with some of this stuff. Something's got to give. And yeah, you can say, oh, well, don't say no. But yeah, but still. Okay, here's supplies. That's good. Reich SS, Himmler sought to expend the Waffen SS. Okay, against Bolshevism. Flemish, yes. They started out wanting to do Flemish, and they only sort of later expanded it into Wallonian stuff. Peoples, because they thought the Wallonians were racially less than Flemish. That's the screwiness of it. We all know that the real sort of, not that there aren't genetic differences between some of the various groups of people in this part of the world. I do believe there are some, you know, there's the Frisians are up here, and there's some other sort of ancient sort of, if you will, tribes that make up some of these peoples here. And you guys who watch this know I'm no racial whatever type person. But, you know, race does have a characteristic on your, whether it's your eye color or your skin tones or other things. But the differences are, I think, as you well know, are immaterial to 99.9% of what makes us different. I'm a culturalist. I'm not a, that what makes us different from different, significantly different from as groups of people. The individuals are different because I've met people that aren't as smart as other people, and it's genetic. But those are individuals, not groups. Groups, I think what makes groups of people different on anything like that is all cultural, not racial. Or like I say, 99.9 whatever percent of the differences derive from culture, not genetic race. And when you look at, especially 19th century and before, often when they say race, they do sort of mean race, but they also sort of mean culture, and it's sort of it's conflated. It's a different sort of understanding, the way people use the terms in the more distant past. But once we're talking the 20th century, with sort of science and genetics starting to become more understood, just starting, we still don't understand it yet. But that the idea that the Wallonians were somehow significantly racially different from the Flemish in a significant way, I think is just silly. But that's the SS for you. Okay, so we can allow Dutch. They thought the Dutch were very much a Germanic people. Germanic. Okay, so we get that. Finland joins the Anti-Comintern Pact. Many other countries, so they joined up. Good. So Finland or Sweden doesn't like it, but improved relations with a bunch of the rest of us. Hitler's meeting with Mannheim recordings. I know I talked about this recently. One of the few or only known Hitler just having a conversation with people as opposed to speaking publicly, recorded. Hitler requests Axis commitment for 1942. I know I've talked about this before. I really, really want a no thank you for whatever reason. Now might be, and I don't know exactly what this is all meant for, if this is meant to be part of an event change. So if you say yes, then you'll get another actual bunch of units, but I'm really thinking this is more just meant to be, I don't know, replacements, I don't know, or just giving them descent. But inform me that they'll, I don't know, turn units over to me or something like that, and I'll decide on whether I want a descent or not. The Norwegian section we're going to go with here. Again, I've changed this so that it's mostly supplies, heavily still in the metal, and a little bit of money, and the amount that they check for is a lot less. So we're going to go light defenses up here. That'll hopefully help out. And the 97th Jaeger Division. Yes, take that. That the one that was down here, yeah. And get Weiss out of the beam. Yeah. Yeah, that even goes away. Okay. Well, stop. That goes away soon. There, so let's these guys. There, okay. We may not have a well formally controlled pocket here, as we've seen these guys are keeping sort of breaking out, but there's some sort of strategic resource there that would be pretty good. Now let's come down here, keep up that way. New attack here. Down, person back. But we are sort of having very much of a rolling pocketing type thing. Okay. Okay. We got some fortifications. Okay. Okay, these guys are way off up there. Let's see if we can closer. Good. Let's attack here. Across the river. They're going into there. Hopefully we'll only be able to live a second here. Okay. We need to address some of that other stuff too. Hungarian Operation Command, that Occupation Command. Yes. We want that. May be given to us because of that pressure the allies, but I don't know. Oh wow, it's way up here. Great. Yeah, attach to them. You go and help form up a blocking force. Also over that way. Maybe some. You stay back, we may see a revolt there. Sometimes they schedule revolts. Like those things sort of here. See that doing something. sustains. Let's give them an okay commander. Maybe a defensive one, because I'm also getting sick of this fuel crap. I'm sure I'm using lots of fuel, but I don't. Okay. These. Incorporate. Now, okay, so if we were to attach this to the there, so now we have that. Okay. Look here, we can get commander. It's going to be a German commander for the Italian unit since they didn't give me one. Yeah, defensive, supply usage, there we go. That's good. So let's send you out here. Piece. Here's the other troops. Let's attach you to there. Well, okay, and this direction. I try not to make the same mistake Germany did by I hope I don't do too much of that. Okay. Okay, now you're stay there. You're gonna go to middle. You can be attached to Harrisburg Nord. Though maybe not always so doable, but try to sort of you guys coming down here, and then we will. Actually, look up here to find that beacon. Wait a minute, is there a garrison? Ask. What was it? Oh, I try not to make the mistake that they did at, for the Stalingrad, to have the Italians in this section and the Hungarians here and the Romanians somewhere. The idea is to have them intermixed with good German units. See, here we go. We're back into supply connectivity. That's at least my concept of what I want to have happens, and I think the 18th. If you do that right, these sort of lesser units, and they are lesser units, they're still very useful, so long as you intermix them with really good German units. Okay. Okay, one Black Sea. Kicking butt. Catch up to troops. I'm just trying to catch up to the front. Attacking back in here. Okay, yep. Attacking here. Get across the river. I kind of head in this direction. Well, before they have a chance to dig in and attack up into this headquarters. They're attacking there. They should attack there. Come down. Finally, West will talk. Like it's going to be taken. Okay, these guys are one. Now, if they were attacked, they've got anti-tank guns. Oh, these guys are dead. War farm. Swamps. Ah yes, now we're on the 4th, so more events. Motorized HQs have advanced. Very good. We like that. Reduce time between hit attack. Let's shift over here to Air Force. That will improve our organization and such. We will do that. Panzer Brigade. Historically, sure, we want to activate those units. Future of the Soviet Union. We're going to do no need for new viceroys. Japanese war situation. This gives us a chance to spend money on them. Yeah, I think it'll be useful. Hungarian war situation. Yes, that would be useful. Deploy Italian naval units to the Black Sea. Okay. Contested Red Navy there. Sure. Those are the Italian midget submarines. Don't know much about them. All really. The Rad Battaglione. How do you pronounce that? 25 manpower, great. And we're going to come up with supply transportation improved. We'll get Red militia units, those are good. Norwegian SS volunteers. Like I've said, these mostly are coming via the Norge SS. German Romanian oil agreement. Let's trade. Absolutely. Again, I like, well, you can negative, that's fine too. But I like a choice. Supplies, sure, it cost me some supplies, but gain a bunch of crude oil, which will be very useful. 10,000. And I also think we'll get an effect. Hitler takes control. No thanks. I don't care. No thanks. Okay, Italy offers more troops for the Russian front. Not now. Okay. During the fall of 41, the Italian leadership offered during several occasions more significant contributions in the war in the East, largely to obtain a reduction in the employment of Italian labor in the Reich industries. On the 26th of November, the Italian Foreign Minister Count Ciano again offered in a meeting with Hitler in Berlin additional troops for the Russian front. However, Hitler turned down this offer. Okay, again, I like choices. I don't see why we don't have a choice. Quite honestly, right now, I was unaware that in fall 41, this is sort of happening later because I believe we need to be at war with the Soviet Union, that at this point there were a requirement, because I see reduction in the employment of Italian labor in the Reich industries. Nations like France had a quota of the amount of labor that you needed to send to Germany. The idea is to have local French authorities in both occupied and unoccupied France recruit people. Hey, work in, you know, the Opel factory or the Ford factory or the you know, I don't know what factories that they were opening for guest workers in. Maybe in Panzer factories. I don't know. You know, how sensitive the stuff. But, you know, come work in there, well-paying jobs, whatever, recruiting posters, recruiting, you know, the idea. And these were, for the most part, voluntary labor in that sense. Again, notice I'm saying for the most part. But they weren't, again, this is my understanding, for the great majority of this type of labor. They weren't anybody in camps. They weren't forced to work any more hours than a German person doing the same jobs. I think they were getting basically the same ration books as the Germans working in those jobs in Germany. So they may be short on food, but everybody's short on food if such. It's just that they were recruited to come and work. Now, of course, if once you're sort of in Germany, you have a pass that, you know, says that you're allowed to be in Berlin or you're allowed to be in Hamburg. And so if you leave the area that you're allowed to be, and this can even be sort of for German citizens too, but more so for these foreign guest workers, you had to get a permission to leave the area, you know, so you would have, you know, you're supposed to work in Hamburg or in Dresden or wherever. You have a job there, you're supposed to be there, you know, okay. Oh, you have a 3-day pass to go somewhere else that you had to apply for? Sure. So it wasn't like you were confined to a, you know, an area, you know, to a, you know, a camp or anything. You were sort of like in a city, in a location, in a region. Now, if you were found outside of that, well, now what are you doing here, kind of thing. And so you know, had to pass, you know, so you couldn't necessarily just get on a train and go back to France at whenever you want to, you know. So it was that. Now, many nations couldn't come up with enough volunteers for voluntary labor. It was like, oh yeah, you know, the Dutch get, oh, we need 5,000 people a month. And the Dutch can't like put up posters and get 5,000 Dutch people. So they start sort of kind of compelling people to come to this, you know. Oh, you don't have a job, sir? You know, they were definitely trying to recruit women too, but most of the forced or semi-forced or whatever you want to call it, labor was mostly men. Oh, you don't have a job? You're unemployed here? Oh, okay. Come to our labor bureau. We'll have a job for you somewhere. You know, okay. And you show up. Oh, your job's now in Germany. So it's just the idea. You know, it's you know, it's not quite even conscripted labor in in the idea that somebody's knocking on your door with a gun and saying, hey, you've now like joined, because we, you know, even in mods we can talk about conscripted labor because we can talk about conscripting soldiers. You know, so yes, that's force, but conscripted labor isn't quite slave labor because soldiers aren't necessarily slaves because they're paid and they have guns. A lot of conscripted labor, they're not living in barbed wire camps. Even often they may be working near their homes. They may be going from their home to work at some, you know, building the Atlantic Wall, you know, or working in some other thing. But they have a pass. They have a job card. They have a thing that, you know, says that you need to be here. And if you're somewhere where you're not supposed to be, dramatically, then there can be problems. So they were trying to deal, and there was lots of unemployment, and there wasn't necessarily lots of money or food to give to unemployed people. So if you didn't have a job, you didn't have a means of support, a means of doing whatever. You know, if you were a local butcher or you were a farmer somewhere in France and the Netherlands, you weren't going to be taken off to Germany to work without, you know, if you wanted to volunteer, sure, because, oh, the pay's better or something like that, maybe. But probably in those, being a butcher, you're probably paid pretty well, and a farmer, you want to take care of your farm. Or you're just a farm worker. Everybody's happy that you're growing food. You know, you have a job. Both the Germans are happy that you're growing food. The locals are happy that you're employed and you're growing food for them. So, you know, they weren't rounding these people up. These are sort of like the unemployed, the underemployed, the, oh, we're shutting down this factory. Well, hey, we have a job for you. Show up and we'll get you your documentation, your travel vouchers, and, oh, it happens to be in Germany. So there was a lot of this going on. I didn't know at this point they were doing much of that in any of that or at all in Italy. I'm sort of surprised to see this. Now we can say not now. I would, why I would like a, and it may be reducing some German manpower, because if you're already presuming that you're getting a certain amount of manpower from other events. Now, we no longer have, and this is convincing me to invade Switzerland more often. I don't like the idea of always invading Switzerland, but I no longer see stacks of infantry divisions protecting the Swiss border, so that means they're doing something else. If nothing else other than sitting on ports, which is, you know, hey, cool. You know, if there's ever any sort of invasion, scripted or otherwise, at least you're somewhere. But I can see a lot more units. Okay, they're out here occupying, keeping that a little bit much, but they've got to be more usefully employed. The AI is making decisions on how much supplies they can, you know, supply through their two ports, it looks like currently, because I took these other ones. But yeah, so you know, how much they can send here or send anywhere else, but at least they're no longer stuck here. In this sort of situation, meaning Mediterranean secure, there's good reason to somehow draw off Italian forces for use on the Eastern Front. Even if you reduce some of the manpower for Germany, just because of if you're reducing labor, that means German labor, but I don't know. So I get the historical thing that they said no, and you can have other, because this looks like all penalties for both Italy and, well, but relations with Italy is worsened, so that kind of thing. Okay, Keitel meets with Hungarian leadership for the sake of arranging details of large military, convince them. Okay. Again, I would like choices here. President's original demand for total military participation eventually sail back into about 50% of her resources upon later success. Okay, yeah, part of the reason I'm only half reading this is I don't have any sort of analysis to choose what I want to do. And Montenescu, so that Hitler, the chief. Appears to have been a special visit to Bucharest by the Wehrmacht commander, Keitel, to introduce the conductor to Hitler's plan for attacking the Caucasus. Okay. Just want choices. And if you want to sort of have some of the effects somewhat hidden, fine, but I just like the idea of, okay, choices. Reform Mountain Corps. Okay, they're not that far east if they're far east at all. Reform this, okay. Got choices, so I need to read this. At the beginning of the war against the Soviet Union, the Romanian Mountain Corps was made up of the 1st, 2nd, and 4th Mountain Brigade. The 3rd Mountain Brigade was stationed on the frontier with Hungary. At the end of the 41 campaign, the 2nd Mountain Brigade was brought back to Romania, and the 1st and the 4th Mountain Brigade were remained in Crimea. During the same winter, the 2nd and 3rd Mountain Brigade was completely rearmed. The old World War I artillery pieces were replaced with modern German guns. The 1st and 4th Mountain Brigades, which were at the front, received field guns instead of mountain guns because they were involved in the first siege of Sevastopol, and they were strengthened with 2 100mm howitzer battalions. The 15th of March 1942, the Mountain and Cavalry Brigades became divisions. This was a political but just decision. The Italian and Hungarian divisions had 6 battalions like the Romanian brigades. This measure was taken in order to show the real size of the Romanian contribution in the effort. Okay. Okay. My sort of worry about that is just pulling stuff from the front where it may be useful in the time it takes to get back to the front. Okay, that's pretty good. Where are we? Oh, here. Okay, well, maybe if I can keep fuel running, it'll be better to have them come via ship. Arm my ships. Those are going that way. It's going to take too long. Come up and grab these, you know. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. I want to upgrade the Leap Standard because it's hardly keeping up with the front even for now, even though it's a rather fast division. I was winning this battle. Okay, we pushed out one of the divisions. Second one too. Metal. Yeah, of course. That's what I know. Just protect there. see if you can cut it off. Yeah, go into the swamps. Dang it. Forces, it looks like most of them. Yeah, this last time we had it, it didn't show up, so that's one of the things that was convincing me that I was having problems, and not just bad coding. We're good, but we're going to keep that down. Okay, flyers. As you see, many Allied flyers are held back to Britain and back into the war. Unfortunately, not flight lieutenants. Flight lieutenants Fairfax and Carstairs of the RAF. There are many ingenious attempts fail to get them back to their squadron. Those are the two guys. And that's Michelle of the Resistance who's trying to get them back. As I sort of do a lot of you take this as a comedical thing or whatever, but shows what was really sort of going on, and they will get an event as well that helps them with a little bit of manpower now getting back. Now, I think generally speaking, if you're an RAF soldier or pilot who gets back via the oh, what was it? Lifeline? No. I forget. There was another sort of group that worked alongside of the Resistance, but was somewhat different than the regular Resistance, but to get the pilots back, as well as whether they just downed pilots, that parachuted down and then get them back, or people that break out of prison camps. They, generally speaking, my understanding is they didn't allow them to fly anymore over Germany because they didn't want them shot down again, or especially if they had previously been prisoners of war, because they didn't want the Germans to get a hold of them and then try to torture them, or otherwise to get them to divulge how they got out of occupied territory before. They didn't want them to, to be able to find that information out. But they still got back into the war because you can be a trainer for fighter pilots, in Britain, or many other, if you're a pilot. But if you're also a gunner or a bombardier, there's many kinds of training and other really important jobs that help the war effort, maybe even help the war effort more than actually being the guy doing it. Because if you're training 100 people over a 6-month period of time, and you can do it well, is better than you flying the bombing missions, obviously. So they get back into the war, but generally my understanding is, and I don't know that it's absolute, but once they sort of got back through the escape lines, they weren't allowed to fly back over Germany or occupied territories again. because of that. So again, that's from hello. Okay, this has been talking a little bit about this, and foreign units have been reorganized, and the Norge SS name changed to Germanic SS Norway, Germansk SS Norge, even with large number of men being transferred to the Waffen SS units. The local membership has increased. Okay, a couple of things. I often talk about how it's wrong when they show SS wearing black uniforms. That goes back to like Hogan's Heroes. SS Gestapo wearing black uniform once the war starts. 99% of the SS or more, within months, it seems like, looking at the dates, they change from black to wearing field gray, all branches of them, unless, here's the one exception that isn't part of the 99%, but just generally, is if the army wears black, Panzer Corps, you still wear black. That's if you drive Panzers, not assault guns. Assault gun troops can wear the same tanker style uniform, but it has to be gray. Or the Martyr guys who drive the Martyrs, the tank destroyer, they wear gray. If you're in the Panzers, the guys with the turrets, you get to wear black. Whether you're in the Army, the SS, or the Luftwaffe. Again, I have some photos of a bunch of Luftwaffe officers standing around, or NCOs, and they're wearing black Panzer uniforms with Luftwaffe caps on them, and the Hermann Goering Division cuff title, because they were tankers in the Hermann Goering Division. So they weren't pilots, they were tankers, and so they wore black. So all the rest of the German SS stop wearing black. You will find, and there's a thread somewhere that shows identifiable, after a few months of the war, of SS members were still wearing black, and they're very rare, and they're sort of uniform collectors, and often they can be identified as sort of like reservist people who hadn't bought new uniforms, and barely, because there's a bunch of people in the reserve SS that didn't necessarily wear uniforms much at all, and so they didn't have, sort of weird esoteric stuff. Okay, but what happens? You have a huge warehouses full of black SS uniforms. Well, two main groups start wearing black. The Dutch SS, that's formed as sort of as a local Dutch formation, wear black uniforms. The Norwegian SS wear black uniforms, as you can see in the poster, as you can see them marching here. These aren't Waffen. These guys are not Waffen SS. These are the Germansk SS Norge of Oslo, as you can see there on their things. So this is the Oslo unit parading there. These are local. You can see looks like they have carrying rifles, but these are not Waffen, but these are the local sort of SS units. These guys, so those I think are the two primary fairly large SS organizations that were not German, but they basically started wearing the surplus German uniforms because there were lots of them in these two countries that were continued to wear the black. And I remember recently some Twitter historian people that post history facts on Twitter posted something about the SS and the German SS whatever, and I go, nope. I could tell, not partially because they were wearing black, but they also had the Wolf's Angle badge of the Dutch SS on them, and so I recognized them as being Dutch SS and not whatever German thing that they were talking about wearing black. So we can, now I guess I didn't give a choice because there's no downside, but you've already before had the choice of if you wanted to form the Waffen or the SS units. Give a chance for it to disappear. Here, oh, we have a lot. Oh, yep. That's why this is another event special. So we can attach this to here, and we now have the historical commanders all the way down to, well, nobody here. I'm a commander. I guess I didn't have a historical commander. Some SS dude. Not a tanker. To waste a tanker here. Okay, this guy, whoever he is. So we now have an Oslo SD department, an Oslo SS militia type unit here. And got headquarters and a higher headquarters with more police. So you actually have a more fundamental police unit. And what's this? I started out at strength 2,000 instead of the full 3,000. Of course, it'll recruit back up if you have the manpower. And most of these units, I just named this one. They were to like from stuff at any one time. Like I was talking about how they would recruit out of them. In one time, there were more like 200-300 men in any one unit, but this sort of represents a bunch of the units that were around in this area that were operating here. Okay, no industrial zone. Yeah, I guess so. Our embassy in Bern, which is no longer in existence, reports that their sources called for landing difficult. That their sources called landing in Africa difficult. Okay, that's maybe because we now have all of the Mediterranean, but there is no longer a Bern embassy. Harris Group Sud conquers Sevastopol. Good. We're losing another one in descent. Good. Harris Group enters the Crimea. Good. Harris Group South crosses the Dnieper. Central Park. Good. Hungary allows recruitment of ethnic Germans. German efforts to exploit all manpower reserves, even outside of the Reich territory, for the struggle in the east were not confined to the armies of its allies, but also extended to foreign or so-called ethnic German volunteers for the German army. Now, the first ethnic Germans recruited in Hungary were actually sort of almost, I don't know if accidentally is not the right term, but were picked up by some of the SS units moving through Hungary on the way to attack Yugoslavia. And it was just like, oh yeah, there's a bunch of Germans, you know, on the side of the road waving flags or whatever. Oh, you want to join up? Sure, here's a uniform, sign here, come. That's how it started for the Waffen-SS, but they later did get this permission. What is it? Gottlieb Berger was the main guy organizing most of this stuff up. So Hungary loses some manpower, but then again, its army is no longer really fighting much, and it's like I think these guys are heading to go fight in Norway. But yeah, we could use the manpower. I like the choice there. Revised anti-Comintern pack. Something. Well, there's a bad code here. Revolverheld, if you do happen to watch this, please note relations with null changed by 5. That may affect everybody, improve everybody by 5. But you only get that null result, I presume, is if there's somehow a misspelled state name or something. So there's a bit of bad code there. Germany provides instructors and equipment to Romania. Yes, I used the same photo too. For almost the same event. For Hearts of Iron 4 version. Yes, again, I like the idea of choice. Prepare the German-Finnish trade agreement. Use economic things with them. They're fine. Yes, we want to do that. Hungary sends the first air brigade. New air brigade. We need this. Use some supplies. We'll take that. Let's see if we can find this. It is this. Air units, which I'm not. Down to the bottom. Okay. I haven't been paying as much attention as I should to air power. Send you guys way out there. Okay, part of our battalions, medium and light bombers, good. Let's maybe move you more towards a port so that we can direct supplies directly to you if we need to. What should we do? Okay. We're down with our allies. Yeah. there. Hans Kammer, how did you get in charge of this group? I was going to attach you to somebody else. They're still there? No. Oh well. Hitler and Mussolini confer in Salzburg from the 28th to the 30th of April 1942. Hitler and Mussolini confer in Salzburg. The Berghof, Mussolini was assured that the second campaign against the Soviet Union would successfully be carried out, dealing a fatal blow to the Soviet war efforts by disrupting supply of the Caucasus oils. As well, both discussed a possible Operation Hercules, the invasion of Multiply the Axis. Well, we've done that. Okay, good. Everything looks like a positive. That's nice. Mussolini prepares Italy for a long war. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's enough other things going on for, you know, defeating all their enemies in the Mediterranean. Don't know if I would continue that one. Okay, let's save the game. Okay, good. Thinking maybe start a next episode. I'm gonna burst out from there. You guys want to? Let's come. I know I often do sort of tend to flow down naturally down this way, which sort of takes me off the path of maybe where I should be going, but maybe there's one good reason for it. Okay, I don't know if we want to attack a city across the river, so let's come up here. Let's see the trip all open. So, yeah, okay. Up on that. Okay, specialist armor, you attack into there. Infantry support there. You guys go after. You guys got those ski troops, they're really good. You need to attack into there. Your sort of beat up, you join the attack. That's you. That's a fresh cut. That's good stuff running there. This is always such a weird fight. It's almost over. missing just too many units. Okay, so before you shut. A bunch more units here. One. Okay, you guys attacking us here. Honest, as it were. Join up. Should just come in there. Getting sick of this fuel thing. Part of it is just because I still have oil. We are battling a transport under an admiral with an impressive beard. Okay. Now we got supplies down to here. Oh, we got the Italian mass flotilla and the Italian Black Sea mini submarine flotilla. Okay, well, cool. I guess we can patrol with these guys. These guys, I've never had them when I've been using them out here. Never had them successfully engage anybody. Now the mass boats, the various E-boats, Schnell boats, those have all worked out pretty well. So we'll put them out here as a patrol. Well, to patrol this part of this Black Sea. Okay, German economic oil agreement. This is something I think that should have happened long ago, back in 39. And I don't know exactly why it didn't happen. But we will ask them, we will get this. Excellent. We've gained 5,000 crude oil plus improved relations. So that really should have, in my opinion, happened long ago. Okay, during most of the war, Turkey sought to balance the expectations of Germany. Okay. Use economic means with them. They're fine. Okay, we'll improve relations. Cost us a little bit of money and supplies. We can afford both. Or metal and supplies. Metal and supplies, yeah, metal. Okay, metal we can afford. Okay, resistance of the Republic of Buzais was short-lived, liberated. Okay, so we're going to have another outbreak of stuff in the former Yugoslavia. Finland establishes winter warfare school. Yes, cost us some supplies, but we gain a bunch of training. Okay, oh, here they are. Wow. Is that a different? No, that's just a major outbreak. Okay. You guys can put out that one. What's going on, guys? Here. Move up the support there. You turn to there. You attack there. You turn to there. You support there. Got a little bit of armor. Really should be French tanks, but you support that. Well, oh good, we've won here. Okay, 41 hours. Wow, 41 hours. Okay. 38, 7. Well, as soon as they can, we'll have them attack back in here, and if necessary, we will air supply them. Romanian mountain corps. As soon as I get that port, I guess we won't come into there. That mountain corps. And speaking of which, let's just stop this and have them come down. This. Divisions. And we'll come down to Athens, I think, and grab those. Get better choice for now. First. Uh-oh, HQ shattered. Okay, well, this episode has gone on more than long enough. I wanted to cover a lot of those events that just a little bit of them stacked up because of don't play long enough at any one time for them to happen. Others just because, hey, it's waiting for the Soviet Union invasion to start, and the first start of the first month after that. So we got through that. Wanted to go cover that because I think a lot of important and I hope interesting to you information. So we'll pick up next time with a bit more of a regular episode. This is sort of a mix of gameplay and yes, events are gameplay, but I wanted to talk about them as much as I did. So thanks so much. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Love to see you around more often. And as I'm watching other major YouTubers tell you, you need to, if you will want to. You want to get notifications, you got to ring that bell. That's that bell button. Hit the bell. I think if you can, I think there's a way you can. They've been changing things, and I don't know if it is currently. But to set certain types of notifications on it, levels, if you want to be notified. Obviously, you can daily come to my channel. You know, if you don't want to be notified, every day there should be something new. Once in a while things happen, and I just can't get to it. But every day there should be something new. How did... Oh, these guys are... I don't care about that. Over there, down in Africa. I'm wondering about the Eritreans. Scars. Every day there should be something new on the channel, so you can always just check daily in case YouTube isn't pushing it out. And go to the main channel page, see all the latest stuff. I really sort of hope that when I put up something new, even if it's a game, maybe, unless you absolutely know you hate that game, I wish you'd at least check out the first or the series or once in a while in the series, just to see if it's for you. But I'm not asking you to watch anything that you do find uninteresting. To me, interesting is a very high thing. Fun is fun. Interesting is higher than fun, in my opinion. Holds my interest. So, if you find stuff completely uninteresting, don't watch it. But if it's, because I recently put up sort of an interactive, cinematic type game, a couple episodes, The Council, set back in the Napoleonic era. Very low viewership. I'm still going to make at least a couple more episodes just to sort of show the game off. But hey, if you guys don't want to watch that, don't watch it. But I hope you sort of like check it out to see, is it okay? Do you want to? Yes, no. If you already know it's no, then yeah, don't watch it. If you think you might, check it out. If it isn't what you want, yeah, quit. Don't keep on it. Keep looking for the stuff you want to watch. Just because I make it doesn't mean you need to watch it. But I do hope you will check out. I do have a couple of those things that I'm going to at least not. Don't worry. One's a space thing that's set in the future, a strategy game. It's not, the channel isn't moving in another direction. I'm just showing you other interesting games that you may or may not enjoy. But yeah, just take a look. I hope you do. And I get very high numbers on the first one, but the third and the second, or the second, third, fourth, fifth, get very low numbers. Trust me, I'll understand that you don't have an interest in it, and I'll move on to something else. But the first one, I do sort of hope you do take a quick look and just see what's there. So thanks for listening to the commercial. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.